Let me start by saying that this is not a Doom post of a video. I definitely think that Wuthering Waves will be a massive success overall. Are we going to hit Genshin levels of revenue? I don't think so. But we can definitely hit, fake Grand Order levels of revenue, right? $20 million, $30 million per month. I think even the first couple of months, we probably will hit 50, 60 million per month, and then it'll settle down into 20. But I think Wuthering Waves will consistently be in the top 5, or at least top 10 grossing gacha games overall. The reason I'm making this video is because there are a few things, 3 things specifically, that I feel people in the community are not talking about enough, and I want to highlight these so that hopefully some people are going to look out for those things and give feedback on these 3 specific things when the game launches, because I think these are the things that are really going to differentiate Wuthering Waves from its competitors, current Genshin, and in the future there are going to be other open world gacha games coming out. I think these are the things that Kuro needs to knock them out of the park to stay on top of the game and stay in the top 10, top 5 grossing gacha games after the release. Now, if you don't know me, and you probably don't because this is my first YouTube video, I'm Solo Hitman. I stream League of Legends every day to about 3 viewers, typically. And I've been playing gacha games for a very long time. I've been playing since the Brave Frontier days back in 2015. So I've played a lot of gacha games. And I'm also a huge PGR simp. So I've been playing PGR since day one. I have every character maxed out. I spend too much money on that game, but not that much. The game isn't very expensive, thankfully. But I am a huge simp for Kuro games. I really want them to succeed. I've been following Wuthering Waves' development since the beginning. So a few things that I want to talk about. Number 1 is going to be the quality of life. So that's specifically referring to how does the game feel to play on a daily basis? What are your daily activities? Are those activities fun? Are they tedious? Is the game respectful of your time overall, or does it force you to do stupid shit to waste your time on a daily basis? Right? And I'm going to be comparing a lot both to Genshin and PGR here. Because obviously direct competition versus how Kuro does things, and at least I can offer some unique insight compared to a lot of other creators by being one of the few people that actually play a lot of PGR already. So looking at Genshin first, we know that the quality of life is pretty dog shit overall. I feel like Genshin is not really respectful of your time. I still play it every day just because it's fun to kind of put it up on your first monitor and put videos on the second monitor and just watch while you mindlessly farm shit on Genshin, but I think Genshin just takes up too much of your time overall. Like if you were to try and take that game seriously and really farm out your characters and max out everything, it's a lot of grinding. Versus PGR, I actually think that PGR is the number 1 game in terms of how much it respects your time. So in terms of burning your stamina every day, for most event nodes, which is basically the main thing that you want to be farming, are the event material nodes, and those you can just auto clear them after a certain amount of time. So you have to clear it, for the first few days, for the first week or so of the event. You're going to have to do a fight, which doesn't take a lot of time anyway. It's like a minute or 2 minutes that you end up doing. But eventually you unlock auto clear. And if you want to burn a shit ton of stamina, like you can just use the items that refresh your stamina and just burn like 1,000 stamina or whatever if you want to. It'll take 10 seconds to do. You can just auto clear however many times you want. So in that sense, you never feel like you have to grind or farm for materials in that game, because what you get out of those event nodes is currency that you can use to buy pretty much whatever you want. So I've never felt like I have to grind in PGR for just materials or items or artifacts or whatever, right? It's never been a thing. And on top of that, your daily activities typically pretty quick. So there's a couple of weekly nodes, and you don't even have to do them every day. So if there are days where you can't really do much, like you only have like 2 minutes to spend on the game, you can just kind of log in, skip a few of the activities for the day, get on the next day, do them. So for someone like me where I'm super busy working full time, not every day do I have 20 minutes or 30 minutes to sit and grind something. PGR, you can pretty much log on a lot of days for 2 minutes or like 5 minutes or less, honestly, and you can get everything that you need to do done, and you're not going to be missing out on anything. The thing that you're really spending your time on in PGR is either the competitive game modes where there are high scores and you're scored against other players, and so you're trying to reach the top of the leaderboard, or the hard content, the really challenging bosses, which are for the most part optional, right? So you're taking that challenge onto yourself, and then you're going to sit there and mold and die over and over to the boss for a long time, like for half an hour or whatever, specifically because you want to, right? So I really want to highlight, when you are spending time on the game, it's because you want to play the game, not because you feel obligated to do that, to spend time on the game because you're going to miss out on certain resources or currency or anything like that. And so that's really what I want Wuthering Waves to accomplish as well. I hope they follow that same same philosophy. Now, thankfully, there's a video from our boy Narushio where he kind of highlights what the daily quests are going to look like. So based on his videos, it's about 15 minutes to do your daily quests, and then another 5 minutes to do the rest of your daily activities. So it follows a similar system to PGR in that there's an activity bar that reaches 100 points, and you can do several different things to reach that 100 points, and then you're good. You'll get all your currency for the day once you reach 100. So it's not bad. It takes about 20 minutes to do. I guess that's not terrible. I'm hoping that when the game launches that they're going to have some auto clear functions, or that you'll unlock auto clear functions as you level up, so that you're not forced to do all the menial shit and spend a lot of time every day. Like, honestly, I play 5 gacha games right now. Wuthering Waves is going to be the 6th. I don't have time to spend 20 minutes on every gacha game, right? So, and sometimes I don't have time to spend on any. I just log into these games and then that's it for the day, right? Like, just log in, log out. So it would be really nice to have some auto clear options. And just overall, I feel it's going to be a very major differentiating factor for people who especially are coming from Genshin to this game to see and experience what it feels like when a game respects your time, right? So I really hope that they're able to knock that one out of the park and just show that level of respect to the player. So that's point 1. The second thing I really want to talk about is the first 2 hours of the story specifically. So I know there was a lot of discussion about the story after the first closed beta, and then they rewrote 90% of the story when they released the second closed beta, and then it was still pretty bad, to be honest. Like, a lot of the streamers and stuff that I watched, they were not enjoying the story at all, and it was pretty clear there was a lot of exposition. It's too slow paced. There's not enough combat in the first 2 hours of the game at all.
See, that was cool. I just have to just make the whole game like that. What the fuck? You tell me we have to go back to this bullshit? Like, that was great.
Pretty much up until the point where Scar shows up, there's nothing really going on, and everybody was super bored. Everybody was skipping the dialogue. It wasn't engaging at all. Now, I actually have faith in Kuro to write a good story overall, and that's because PGR's story is actually really good. It's actually amazing. But most people who know about the game will not tell you that the story is really good. It's not really the reputation of the game that it has a really good story, and that's because the first 2 hours of the story suck. Right, and it goes to show how important it is that the story's entire reputation is based on how those first 2 hours are, because after that, in PGR at least, it gets really good. And I'll probably make another video talking about why that story is actually really good and what's good about it, but it shows the importance of those first 2 hours, and even in the closed beta, second closed beta, after they rewrote 90% of the story, it clearly isn't enough. And I know in the dev live stream they said that they added more combat missions into those first 2 hours to address that and make it more engaging early on. And I'm hoping it was enough, but I'm just hoping that people are still keeping an eye on the story and people will give feedback to Kuro on that first 2 hours experience, because there might be some work that they can do to correct it further even after the launch. They might rework some of the quests or rewrite some of the early stuff. Who knows? Maybe not, but I think it's worth giving them the feedback on that if it's still the case. And I think it's really important because there's going to be the disgruntled Genshin players who aren't terminally online and they don't know about all the drama. They just are bored with Genshin and they try out Wuthering Waves. And those first 2 hours are going to be crucial to retaining those players. So the third thing that I want to talk about, and this is the least important point, admittedly, of the 3, which is why I put it at the end, but it is still worth talking about, and that is the soundtrack. Now, hear me out before you give me a strike.
That's strike 1, buddy. Let's strike 1. Here, let's go ahead and pull it up. All right, strike. All right, we are currently at strike 1.
I think the soundtrack is worth talking about because I know the soundtrack is good, right? That, like, there's no dispute. There's some really nice standout tracks like the Crownless theme and a couple of the boss themes. But in a game like Wuthering Waves, where so many of the themes are centered around sound and music, the soundtrack needs to be peak. And I know what they are capable of putting out. Even though Wuthering Waves has a good soundtrack as is, comparing it to PGR, Punching Gray Raven's soundtrack is way better. It's on another level. So what I'm about to say is kind of speculation, there's some evidence for it, but I think that Kuro made their own internal sound studio when they were making a lot of the songs for Wuthering Waves. So for PGR, the entire soundtrack is done by one company, which is Vanguard Sound Studios, and Vanguard has actual musical geniuses working there. It's a small group, and they do they do songs for multiple game soundtracks. So they do Aether Gazer and Arknight's Girls Frontline, and I think couple other games, but they have legitimate geniuses working there, and they make incredible songs. A lot of the ones that are the most popular songs for PGR are made by two people, so there's Ghost Final and Halo Week, or as we call them, Goat Final and Halo Peak. So I don't think that Vanguard has the capacity to do the entire soundtrack for Wuthering Waves. It is a small group of people, and they're working on multiple games, including PGR. They're still making songs for it. So I'm sure that Kuro had to make their internal sound studio just to make up for the fact that that one company cannot make the entire soundtrack for them. Now, what I'm hoping is that they have a lot of songs that they haven't used, but they have in the oven ready to go. We know of at least one, which is the song called Flow that Vanguard did upload to their YouTube channel a while ago, and it didn't show up in the closed beta, any of them. So I'm hoping that there's actually a lot more songs that they're ready to pull out on launch for all of those hype moments, because that's really something that is going to differentiate Wuthering Waves, is that peak level of soundtrack that I know that they're capable of putting out that they haven't really shown as of yet. Like there's two things. One is the songs are not only on a completely different level in terms of quality. Like I know the existing songs, there's a bigger focus on EDM than what we get in PGR and what Vanguard does. And so it's different, but even for what it is, the quality is not on the same level at all. And the second thing is the songs that Vanguard puts out tell the story of the boss that you're fighting or whatever's going on, of the character that it's made for. You can tell what the story is, what emotions are being felt just by hearing the song. There's this YouTube channel, Marco Meatball, where he analyzes a lot of the PGR soundtracks and a lot of other songs as well. But he didn't play the game before he had heard most of the songs, but he was able to figure out the story of the bosses and the characters that were involved in the songs just by listening to the songs, right? And you don't get that in the Wuthering Waves boss fights right now at all, right? They don't really tell the story, they're just songs, right? So I'm really hoping that that is something that people look at, and hopefully, most people aren't going to really recognize it, but I'm hoping that people will request Vanguard or request Kuro to use Vanguard as much as possible moving forward. And I'm hoping it's not an issue anyway, and that there are a lot of bangers that are just sitting there that they didn't use. But I want to talk about it. It's not a big deal. It's not the strongest point. I think the strongest points are the quality of life in the first 2 hours of the story, but I still think that the soundtrack is something that's worth talking about, especially for a game like this that is so focused on sound. So those are the 3 points that I wanted to talk about. I hope this video was decent to listen to and that there was some value in what I was saying, or that you extracted some value from this information at all. This is my first YouTube video, so I'm really not used to this, but hopefully it was decent. Please leave a comment, give me some feedback. I'm looking to get into YouTube a lot more, and I think Wuthering Waves is a good opportunity to get into the content creator space. Lots of small content creators coming up, and I want to be part of that wave. So the waves are weathering. All right, see ya.